Good afternoon. My name is Zsuzsanna Benyó, and the title of my PhD thesis is Human Adaptation to Spaceflight. But why exactly this topic? Because your children will definitely have the chance to go to space. And even you, as scientists, will have the chance to work in a lab like this very soon. According to market analysts, we will reach the number of space travelers of 41,000 by the year 2030, thanks to reusable rocket technology. But before I go into the details of my thesis, let me introduce my team. I'm an economist, and besides that, I studied dietetics here in Semmelweis University, and right now I'm a graduating student also at the so-called Space program here in Hungary, studying interdisciplinary space sciences. And I'm also an active member, alumni of the European Space Agency's Business Incubation Program. I'm also very grateful for my team because they have enormous knowledge also related to space sciences. They are in charge of the training and selection of the next Hungarian astronaut, and the program is called HONOR. Our mission is to achieve healthy longevity not only here on Earth, but also in space. And we would like to encourage also you to think about further scientific research topics in terms of space, because there is a need for establishing even a translational research institute for space healthcare. We have two specific goals. The first one is assessing the effect of bisphosphonates in preventing spaceflight-induced bone, renal, and urinary disorders. Why exactly this topic? Because when you will work in this lab that I showed you, after 1 month, you will lose at least 1% of your bone mass. But according to statistics, it can be even more. And it has even a further side effect. It has a negative effect also on your calcium metabolism, homeostasis, and that's why there is an even higher risk for developing renal stones and have urinary disorders. Bisphonates has been already a very successful, effective drug here on Earth. So there are already studies related to its usage in space or in microgravity models. So we would like to investigate whether bisphosphonates can prevent renal stones, urinary disorders, or bone loss in space. The clinical question is, can bisphosphonates prevent altered gravity-induced renal stone formation, urinary disorders, or bone loss? We agreed on a PICO with 2 types of population, humans in space, but we will examine articles also which are about humans in altered gravity models, for example, in so-called bed rest studies. And the intervention in our study will be usage of bisphosphonates, comparing this with cases where we are not using bisphosphonates. And the outcome will be renal stone, urinary disorder, or bone-loss-related parameters. And we hypothesize that bisphosphonates are effective countermeasures to minimize bone loss, urinary disorders, or renal stone formation in space and in microgravity models. And our clinical implications are to minimize the occurrence of harmful syndromes mentioned before. We conducted a systematic research in 5 key medical databases, but even examined the space agencies, the major space agencies' databases, and we identified more than 16,000 articles. This is the finalized search key. As you can see, for the time being, we left out bisphosphonates and the different names of bisphosphonates, not to lose any very valuable articles related to that. And so far, there are 5 key articles that we already know. And as you can see, we highlighted 9 key biomarkers related to this very important topic. And we will focus on the bone mineral density parameter because that can change not that quickly as the others. And there are already at least 3 publications which we can use for this purpose. After the duplicate removal, we found almost 9,000 articles, and we are already finished. We have already finished also the title and abstract selection, and so far there are 406 articles about the topic. This is the status. The other topic is investigating how spaceflight or altered gravity levels, microgravity, can affect body composition. I'm sure you have already seen on TV astronauts who cannot even stand up after the space flight. Obviously, there are several reasons for this, but one of them is definitely muscle loss. It's enormous, so only after 5 to 11 days, which is a very short period of space flight, you will lose 20% of your muscle mass. And if you talk about a longer period, years, which will come, if we talk about going to Mars, to Moon, then you can lose even 50% of your muscle loss. So we aim to explore the optimal duration of spaceflight concerning the risk factors associated with muscle atrophy and bone loss among space travelers. Space is for all. These are some very good examples that it doesn't matter how old you are. You can go to space. I'm sure you are familiar especially with Captain Kirk, who is, for the time being, the oldest astronaut who went to space. Obviously, I need to add the tiny information that they have been to suborbital flights and only for 10 minutes. But still, I would like to highlight the importance of examining the duration of the ideal spaceflight for that individual space traveler. So personalize this question and provide them with guidelines to answer this. The clinical question is, how do spaceflight or altered gravity levels affect body composition? We will examine humans, so not only astronauts, exposed to either spaceflight or altered gravity levels, so microgravity models, and we will compare them with the baseline data, and we will examine the body composition at different time points. It's important to emphasize the different time points, so we'll examine this pre-flight, during the flight, and post-flight. And the hypothesis is that body composition of humans are changing induced by spaceflight or microgravity models. And with this, we would like to have a better knowledge about the potential risk of malnutrition, bone and muscle loss induced by spaceflight or microgravity models, or bed rest, which is a microgravity model. I would like to add here that malnutrition is also a key program related to this question, because the taste and smelling abilities of astronauts deteriorate during their space flight, so they don't taste properly, they do not smell properly, so that's why it's also a major question in space. We are planning to complete both projects within a year, and we choose to go to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And we will do this also, in terms of going to Mars.
Thank you very much for this very nice and very interesting presentation. My question is, if I may, how would you like to measure the body composition?
The body composition can be measured, obviously, by BMI as well, but not only. The major problem is the muscle loss and bone loss. So we will focus on those two key parameters, especially.
But how would you measure it?
There are special, so there is a pre-flight baseline.
I understand the pre and post. What I do not understand the during the flight. This is why I'm asking.
There are special technologies which allow us to make measurements even in space or during.
And what are those special technologies?
It's a very good question. Thank you for the question. I'm happy to show you these photos during the next progress report. because that's the second topic.
Okay, so let's get back to this later on. Maybe other questions as well?
Okay, congratulations. I have a question that this biphosphonate giving is a part of a protocol for the astronauts generally, or this is why are you investigated this this problem?
There is no protocol for the time being. There have been already studies conducted with bisphosphonates, also in space. It started back in 2013, but so far there are no protocols, so it's still ongoing. They are comparing these studies with studies which are comparing the results, for example, studies where they were examining the outcomes when they did resistive exercise or when they used electrical stimulation, or there are examples even when they used Chinese medicine, so they are in the phase of comparing the results.
And this is an experience that these astronauts, after a long journey, they have a ureterolithiasis or some classification problems. So it's experience.
Yes. It's among the top 3 major gaps identified by NASA. I mean, bone loss and renal stone formation. The third one is lunar dust.
Thank you very much.
One short last question, great topics. Is there any data about simulation versus real life effect regarding to your second topic? Like, are there astronauts who have been tested in simulatory environments and then went to space and then tested again, and we can compare somehow what the differences between real life experience and simulation are? Because maybe you can have a sort of dimension of what you can find between these two situations.
Thank you very much for the question. This is great. Yes, there is a very thorough monitoring of especially in case of astronauts. So we have data available related to that. There are very special equipment and training centers where they measure them even when they are doing, for example, trainings in so-called buoyancy lab, which is a kind of swimming pool. So they immerse the astronaut candidates there and measure them also throughout their training period.
And one last question, because this is a very interesting topic. Do you have, some kind of differences between the age of the astronauts and the physical status of the astronauts as regard to muscle atrophy, for example, or muscle loss?
Thank you for the question. It will be definitely included in the second project, so I'm also eager to see the results. And it's also very important because, as I said, space is becoming more and more for all. So since the rocket technology will be reusable, there will be more and more people, not only at the early age, at a young age, but people with already developed syndromes who will go to space. So it's important.
We will see. Thank you very much.